Hello, Namaskar, Vanakkam. This is going to be an extremely important video if you are a student who is going to appear for the board examinations of 2025, ICSE class 10 and ISC class 12. So stay with this video till the end because there is going to be a lot of information and information overload as far as you are concerned. So if you are a student or the parent of a student, listen to this video very carefully. I have been seeing a lot of chatter and I'm addressing that question straight away because many of you have been asking whether the examinations will be tough, whether the examinations will be difficult this time. I am not using either of the two words. The word I'm using is whether the board exams of 2025 for 10th and 12th class will be tricky. Tricky is the key word, not difficult, not tough. And I will qualify why I'm calling it a tricky paper compared to the board exams of 2022, 23 and 24. In one of my earlier videos, I had said previous year question papers करने का फायदा इतना नहीं है. I still maintain that. Though, yes, I would say for class 10, you should look at the previous year question papers, even of 2016, 17, 18, etc. for subjects like physics, for sure. For subjects like mathematics to an extent. For the long format questions in geography and history civics. Otherwise, please confine yourselves to the previous year board examination papers only of 22, 23 and 24. You don't really need to go back till 2015-16. I'm saying this with a lot of responsibility. And when you listen to this video, you will know exactly why I'm saying that. Now, let's get into the details. Now, this particular graph will show you what I'm going to talk about. Why am I calling it a dramatic shift? Because the question papers of 2025 will be different from the question papers of the last 3 years. There will be more number of competency focused questions. The council has already released an item bank with more competency focused questions. Last year, 15% of the paper was competency focused questions, which means more questions which will test your understanding, more questions which will test your analysis of this concept, more assertion and reasoning questions. Okay, this time the percentage is going to be 25%. What does this mean? That out of the 18 marks paper, 20 mark के questions ऐसे questions होंगे which will be more analytical in nature, which will be more assertion and reasoning based questions, which will test your understanding. That's what is going to be the major shift. 25%, 20 marks out of 80. So if you are the kind of student who thinks कि रट्टा मार लेंगे चले जाएंगे, नहीं काम होगा बंधु, तुमको समझना पड़ेगा. So if you are being taught to only rote learn, to just rely on memory based teaching, if you are being if that is being imparted, you could be in a spot of bother as far as this 20 marks out of 80 marks is concerned. 60 marks you may still be able to do, but 20 marks khatre mein ho sakta hai. Okay, so that's what you need to bother about. Now, see, all these years what was happening was that the question papers were being based on lots, okay, which is lower order thinking skills. Now the attempt as per the new education policy is to gradually move to HOTS, which is higher order thinking skills. Lower order, higher order. Higher order में क्या होगा? रट्टा मारने से काम नहीं चलेगा. You will need to think, you will need to analyze, you will need to be able to reason why something like this is happening, and that will test your understanding and your ability to apply that understanding to solving a particular problem or solving a particular question. So it will test your competency कि कितने पानी में हो, कितने competent हो in understanding this particular poem, this particular concept, this particular formula, etc., etc. So that's about it. Now, so what is it that you need to expect? Okay, what is it that you need to expect? पहली बात, rote learning मुर्दाबाद. I say this with a lot of emphasis. अभी भी समय है, दिसंबर के पहले हफ्ते में हो, अगर अभी भी उसी पुराने कॉन्सेप्ट से पढ़ने की कोशिश कर रहे हो जहां पर आपको ये कहा जा रहा है ऑफलाइन या ऑनलाइन कहा जा रहा है कि रट्टा मारो, तो मेरी सलाह यह है, प्लीज डोंट डू दिस। अपने पैरों पर कुल्हाड़ी मत मारो, रट्टा मारना मुर्दाबाद। ओके, देयर विल बी फ्यूअर क्वेश्चंस दैट विल टेस्ट यू ऑन रिकॉल। रिकॉल के क्वेश्चंस होंगे, लेकिन रिकॉल के क्वेश्चंस भी ऐसे होंगे दैट विल टेस्ट कि तुमने कितनी बारीकी से किसी पर्टिकुलर चीज को पढ़ा है या नहीं। ओके, सो देयर विल बी रिकॉल क्वेश्चंस। I'm not saying that there will be no recall questions. There will be recall questions, but the percentage of recall questions is going to reduce compared to 2024. Okay. 25% competency focused questions. It was 15% last year. I just now told you that. Apply your understanding of concept or theme. That's very important. Understand. समझने पर फोकस करो, सिर्फ जो किताबी लैंग्वेज है उसको रिप्रोड्यूस करने पर ध्यान मत कम दो। कीवर्ड्स का इस्तेमाल करना है। आई एम नॉट सेइंग डोंट यूज कीवर्ड्स, कीवर्ड्स का इस्तेमाल करो, लेकिन कीवर्ड्स का इस्तेमाल इंटेलिजेंट तरीके से करो। दैट्स इंपॉर्टेंट। There will be more example or case-based questions. CBSE has been doing it for many years. CBSE, in fact, has also increased the percentage much more than 25, close to 50%. But this is also moving in the same direction. Please remember, the new chief executive of the ICSE Council is Dr. Joseph Emmanuel. Joseph Emmanuel, he was the secretary of the CBSE. So he comes from that school of thought. So ICSE gradually is also moving in the same direction. An extremely dynamic officer who is going to bring in a lot of new ideas. He's already doing that in 2025. He took over. So this, in that sense, is the first board examinations for Dr. Emmanuel, Joseph Emmanuel in ICSE and ISC. सो देखना पड़ेगा कि किस तरह का पेपर बनता है, कितना ज्यादा ये अभी सीबीएसई के, बिकॉज सीबीएसई में दे रियली टेस्ट योर अंडरस्टैंडिंग। ओके, सो उस दिशा में it is going, which I think is a very good idea. If you see the kind of question papers, for example, which I have made in English literature for ICSE class 10, or my grammar test papers, which again test your understanding, you know, छोटी छोटी चीजें, whether you are able to recall, ये नहीं कि simple thing, the book was on the table, उस तरह के simple prepositions आपसे नहीं पूछे जाएंगे. There will be something which will test you much more deeply than just very fixed prepositions which you could have answered in class 8 or 9, right? So that's something very important. This is the essays book which I'm holding. This is for class 9 and 10. This is for class 11 and 12. Even essay topics, even letter topics, please do not expect straight lollipop kind of essay topics or letter topics. Expect something which is related to life around you, but something which you may leave unnoticed. As I had given the example the other day, tree cutting. In this book, I think there is one letter about sale of medicines beyond their expiry date. Now, this is again something which happens on a day-to-day basis. Are you capable of writing a letter to the medical commissioner or the health commissioner about this, or the drugs controller about this, or the disposal of syringes and needles by a dispensary or a small hospital in the common dustbin? What would you tell the municipal commissioner? Those kind of letters, those kind of topics I have included in this book. That's what is required. थोड़े टॉपिक्स जो थोड़े हटके हैं, ताकि आपके पास उस तरह का कंटेंट भी रहे. When I talk about competency, it means whether you are competent enough to write those kind of essays. In the essays for ISC, even more important, because you need to be, it's not just enough to write an original story. If you are writing an argumentative story about the kind of education, whether your mother tongue should be taught, whether education should be free till class 10, the government should subsidize education across the country, right? Whether you should decide on a career based on what is the industry doing at that point in time. So, you know, things which call for what I mentioned, HOTS, higher order thinking skills. So across all subjects, from English language to biology, from physics to geography, from history, civics to chemistry, in all subjects, you will be asked HOTS based questions. So there will be those kind of topics, be it in essay writing, be it in letter writing, the comprehension, the kind of words that you would be expected to know the meaning of. I'm not saying, again remember, I'm not saying they will be tough, they will be tricky. a certain percentage of them will be tricky that will expect you to kind of दिमाग लगाने वाली बात होगी. ये नहीं होगा कि वहां जाके कुछ भी ऐसे लिख दो, like some people advise कि वहां जाके कुछ भी लिख दो हो जाएगा. नहीं होगा. अगर तुमको 19 आउट ऑफ 20 चाहिए या 20 आउट ऑफ 20 चाहिए, 18 आउट ऑफ 20 चाहिए, अगर आप 7 आउट ऑफ 20 से खुश हैं तो ये आपकी मर्जी है. मेरे स्टूडेंट्स हो तो मैं चाहूंगा कि आप में से सभी लोग इन बुक्स की सहायता से स्कोर 18 आउट ऑफ 20, 19 आउट ऑफ 20, 20 ऑन 20. दैट्स माय एम. लेटर में 10 आउट ऑफ 10. मैं 9 आउट ऑफ 10 से भी खुश नहीं होता हूं. ओके, सो दैट्स वन थिंग यू नीड टू bear in mind. Let me give you a sample question. You will understand what I am talking about. For example, I hope you can see this on the screen. This is a sample question that I made when I was preparing for this particular video. A no confidence motion is moved against the Council of Ministers and the government loses the trust vote. Okay. But the Prime Minister asked the President to impose a national emergency. ये है केस. ये एक एग्जाम्पल दिया गया है. नाउ इसके बेसिस पर आपसे 3 या 4 या 5 क्वेश्चंस पूछे जा सकते हैं. पहला, विच पावर विल होल्ड स्वे नाउ, मतलब कि कौन सा पावर प्रेसिडेंट अभी इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. एग्जीक्यूटिव, लेजिस्लेटिव, डिस्क्रिशनरी और इमरजेंसी. ये सिंपल आपको एक वर्ड लिखना है, उसके अलावा कुछ नहीं लिखना है. ये 1 मार्क का ही क्वेश्चन होगा. यू हैव टू राइट डिस्क्रिशनरी. इफ यू हैव टाइम यू कैन राइट. अगर 2 मार्क का क्वेश्चन आ जाता है बाय चांस, आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट द मार्क्स, यू कैन राइट एक्सप्लेन व्हाई डिस्क्रिशनरी. देन द पीएम आर्ग्यूज. ये एक और केस दिया गया है दैट द प्रेसिडेंट हैज टू फॉलो हिज एडवाइस. अगर आप एक एडवोकेट हैं, अगर आप एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल लॉयर हैं, व्हाट एडवाइस वुड यू गिव टू द प्रेसिडेंट. तो उसमें आपको, तो इसमें क्या हो रहा है, यू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट आई एम सेइंग. इसमें आपको कॉन्सेप्ट समझ में आना चाहिए. उसके बेसिस पे यू हैव टू राइट दिस आंसर दैट इफ आई वर a legal luminary, I would advise the President of India to do this, right? So उस तरह से आपको अपना, आपको जो कॉन्सेप्ट समझ में आया है, लेकिन द डिफरेंस इज दैट पहले आप वो पूछते थे व्हाट आर द 2 डिस्क्रिशनरी पावर्स, व्हाट आर द 3 डिस्क्रिशनरी पावर्स ऑफ द प्रेसिडेंट, 1 2 3, जो बुक में पढ़ा उसी को रट्टा मार के लगा देते थे. अब क्या होगा, उसी अंडरस्टैंडिंग को, उसी पॉइंट्स को एक अलग तरीके से प्रेजेंट करके आपको अपना आंसर लिखना पड़ेगा. आई होप दिस इज क्लियर. और क्वेश्चंस होंगे इसके सामने. देखिए, व्हाट डू यू थिंक द ऑपोजिशन कैन एंड विल डू. ऑपोजिशन क्या कर सकता है अगर प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऐसी सलाह प्रेसिडेंट को देते हैं, तो ऑपोजिशन के पास क्या चाह रहा है. यू कैन राइट अबाउट दैट दे कैन ऑर्गेनाइज प्रोटेस्ट, दे कैन go to the media, they can arouse public opinion against what the prime minister is trying to do, because that is considered to be not constitutional once he has lost the no confidence motion vote. What is the parliament expected to do? Parliament क्या कर सकता है. Parliament क्या करेगा. Parliament लोकसभा में ही हुआ है, right? So parliament can also put pressure on the government that what you are saying is not the right thing to do. What will be the impact on the citizens? What happens in a national emergency? उसके बारे में लिख सकते हैं. That the citizens will also raise their voice through social media, through the press, etc. So these are very broad questions. I'm not saying exactly these kind of questions can be asked, but based on a case study like this, you can be asked different kinds of questions which are hypothetical situations. कि ऐसा हुआ हो, आपसे जो हुआ है उसके बारे में भी पूछा जा सकता है कि दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट का ये था, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने एक ऑर्डिनेंस पास किया, क्यों पास किया, किस वजह से पास किया, उसका क्या इंपैक्ट है, राइट. यू कैन बी आस्क्ड ऑल दोस क्वेश्चंस. इट कैन कम इन द सेकंड सेगमेंट ऑफ 2 marks each. It can come even in the last segment, right? I expect a lot of these kind of questions. In fact, I will tell you about that. Subjects that could really test you fiercely. PCB, for sure, take it from me. Physics, chemistry, biology, और इन तीनों में से भी physics और biology. फिजिक्स बायोलॉजी अगर आपको रट्टा मारने के लिए कहा जा रहा है तो मेरी सलाह मानिए, ऐसा कभी मत कीजिए. डोंट गो बेस्ड ओनली ऑन मेमोरी. अंडरस्टैंड. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आई थॉट ऑफ ए क्वेश्चन लाइक दिस, दैट सो एंड सो, लेट्स से मोहित हैज एन ईयर प्रॉब्लम. ओके, ear problem. He goes to the ENT doctor in his neighborhood. The ENT doctor, Dr. Murli, tells him that Murli is the name of my cousin who is a doctor. He passed out from CMC Vellore. He's now in the USA. Anyway, so Dr. Murli tells him that, there is a problem with your inner ear or with your cochlea, right? देन उसके बेसिस पर आपसे पूरा ईयर के बारे में अलग अलग क्वेश्चंस पूछे जा सकते हैं. What is the function of the cochlea? What does it do? What could be the problem from which Mohit may be suffering from? What advice did Dr. Murli give him? Different things. So what I'm trying to say is that case-based, example-based kind of questions. The same goes with physics. Say the electricity chapter में ये हो रहा है, how would you rectify this problem which is taking place in the house of the Mehras, right? You could be asked a question like that. So PCB में please मेहनत करो इस तरह के questions के साथ, right? Civics and Geography. Civics का example मैंने दे दिया. Geography will be another subject where you could be asked these kind of questions because it's based on life around you. In fact, even history may be. I'm creating this kind of questions. हमारा history civics course है. I'm creating this kind of questions. In fact, I will do a video for you also where I'm talking about different kinds of questions, which will, ये नहीं कि सीधा देखा टक कर दिया, वो 2 सेकंड में चुनने वाली बात नहीं होगी, उसमें एटलीस्ट 10 सेकंड तो लगाने पड़ेंगे, थोड़ा सोचना पड़ेगा, एलिमिनेशन प्रोसेस लगाना पड़ेगा ताकि आप गलती ना करें. देन इंग्लिश लिटरेचर, you look at my question bank, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. The literature question bank that I've created, please go and have a look at it to understand what different kinds of questions can be asked. I think on some chapters 35 लास्ट लेसन वगैरह में तो मैंने 50 या 60 MCQs लिखे हैं, तो जितने भी आए दिमाग में आता रहा, आई हैव काइंड ऑफ केप्ट ऑन एडिंग टू दैट. सो दिस वन एंड ऑल सब्जेक्ट्स इन ISC. ISC में पॉलिटिकल साइंस में यू कैन बी आस्क्ड मेनी सच क्वेश्चंस फॉर स्टूडेंट्स ऑफ ह्यूमैनिटीज. हिस्ट्री में फॉर श्योर, सोशियोलॉजी नॉट सो मच, बट पॉलिटिकल साइंस एंड हिस्ट्री में मच मोर. साइंस सब्जेक्ट्स ऑफ कोर्स. Similarly, in accountancy, economics में you could get lots of case-based questions. When I say lots of, I mean compared to 2024, उसकी संख्या ज्यादा होगी. Okay, so bear in mind कि इस तरह का क्वेश्चन पेपर होगा, उस तरह के क्वेश्चन से प्रैक्टिस करो. Use the right kind of question bank to do something like this. We have been recommending Oswald books, and I have also been giving my author coupon code Sudhir 10 for you to use on the Oswald books website. Entirely up to you. Please go and check it out, the quality for yourself, and then decide what you want to buy and use. But definitely do that. या दूसरे स्कूल के प्री बोर्ड पेपर से बोरो करो अगर उस स्कूल में अच्छे क्वेश्चंस को फ्रेम किया गया है. अगर ऑर्डिनरी पुराने सालों की तरह PYQs को चेप दिया है तो कोई फायदा नहीं है. ओके, आई एम टेलिंग यू दैट. सो दैट इज समथिंग which you need to bear in mind. So that is what I wanted to tell you. Understand and test yourself with SWS. We have the literature thing. The history, civics, and geography test papers will also come out in a while. The grammar test papers, and of course the essays and letters book. That is something which you definitely need to do. Let me just hope that I have not missed out on any point. Yeah, that's all. So I hope इस वीडियो से आपको क्लैरिटी मिली कि किस तरह से आपको बोर्ड एग्जाम्स के लिए तैयारी करनी है. अभी भी आपके पास 2-2.5 महीने का समय है. So please change your approach if you have not done it. As I said right at the beginning, I am not saying that you will get tough papers. I am not saying you will get difficult papers. But definitely the paper is likely to be more tricky than the previous year paper. One change which has been made, which the council has itself said in its advisory note, is that between every question, every answer, leave a line for clarity ताकि एग्जामिनर जब उस पेपर को आंसर स्क्रिप्ट को चेक कर रहे हैं उनको भी आसानी हो पढ़ने में. ओके, सो दैट इज समथिंग विच यू नीड टू डू. ओके, थैंक यू वेरी मच. टाटा, बाय बाय, नमस्कार, गॉड ब्लेस यू, ऑल द बेस्ट टू ईच वन ऑफ यू.